Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another event in the Spring into AI series. This is a panel discussion which will be moderated by CHL's director, Michel Bellini. It features 4 guests: Ingrid Fulmer, Gabe Gibson, Amin Kassem, and Tracy Tolliver. Michel will do detailed introductions in just a minute. Just wanted to say to you that this event is called From Generative AI to Agentic AI, Adaptive Institutional Strategies. As artificial intelligence evolves from generative tools to more autonomous agentic systems, institutions must rethink how AI fits into their teaching, learning, and operational ecosystems. This panel brings together higher education and technology leaders to share how their institutions are navigating opportunities, challenges, and strategic decisions in the age of AI. This event is recorded. The recording will be made available very soon, early next week. If anybody has any questions, please post them in the chat. We have decided, although this format is subject to change, we'll see how it goes, but we would like the first about 35 to 40 minutes to be pre-scripted questions and the discussion moderated by Michel, and the remaining 20 minutes will be devoted to audience questions. But if anybody has any questions whatsoever, at any point, please don't be shy about posting them in the chat. If you see a thumbs up, that means that your question was received and will be relayed to the panel as time allows. That's all. Welcome again. Thank you for being here, and I will turn it over to Michel and the panelists.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. AI is great, but I see that they still write my name the wrong way, but that's okay. This is minor. Okay, so I'm super excited about that event today, primarily because we have friends, new friends, very new friends. They're all expert in AI and technology. I'm gonna go through a very brief introduction, guys, and then we'll get started. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, all right. So we have Ingrid Fulmer. Did I pronounce it well?
Yes, you did.
Fulmer, okay. Ingrid is an advisor for strategic initiatives in the Office of the Provost. She's a professor and former dean of the School of Labor and Employment Relations. Among the strategic initiatives in her portfolio is AI, for which she provides coordination and strategic coherence needed to monitor, support, and better align efforts across UIUC's highly decentralized academic units. Are we decentralized?
I've heard that.
You've heard that, okay. This role is distinct from the university's enterprise technology and IT functions, focusing instead on the academic dimensions of AI and on fostering support and collaboration across the academic community. Welcome, Ingrid, and thank you for being here. We have Amin Kassem, right? Amin is Associate Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Parkland College. He is recognized for strategic planning and leading changes, including adopting new technologies and IT business processes. Amin is no stranger to U of I, since he spent a little more than 12 years, I believe, right? If I believe LinkedIn, working at AITS, where he provides leadership for enterprise systems. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Then we have Tracy Tolliver, not Oliver, Tolliver, right? A good friend. She's currently the Director of Library Information Technology at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign Library, leading help desk, workstation and network support, infrastructure management and support, web development, and scholarly communications and repository services development. Tracy also spent 12 years at Technology Services before being at the library, responsible for enterprise applications like email and LMS and many more things, right? I remember how busy you were when I met you for the first time. And then last but not least, okay, maybe least. Sorry, Gabe. Gabe Gibson. Gabe is the Chief Information Officer at the Illinois Central College. Gabe transitioned to his leadership role at Illinois Central College in late 2023, so very recently, right?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
How do you feel? Good to be the CIO? Yeah, okay, good move. He leads the institution's information technology operation and strategy. He spent nearly 19 years serving in various capacity at the University of Illinois. We all miss you. Prior to joining ICC, And we love to have you back, and I'm super happy that you're still here, right? And so this is fantastic. Thank you. Welcome. And thank you so much for your participation. This is great time for having those type of conversation. So let's talk a bit about the shift that we are all feeling is happening because of AI in education and at the institutional level. And perhaps I'll get us started with that first question, which is, generative AI has moved into the mainstream very, very quickly, perhaps too fast, right? And everywhere. And now we're already hearing about agentic AI. And I think in the corporate world, they've been talking about agentic AI for quite some time already. From your institution perspective, what is the most significant shift or challenge in responding to this rapid evolution? Tough questions. Who wants to get started? I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest issue here is the pace. The change happened really fast. And if you look at the statistics back when ChatGPT was introduced, it took 2 months to hit 100 million users. It took Facebook 4.5 years to get to the same number. So, of course, and that was available for everybody, for consumers, for students, for employees. And of course, everybody waited for the institution to give guidance where to go from here with governance. But no, I mean, it was really slow change. We were slow to introduce a change in higher education in general. So the base was very, very fast. As we get ready, I look at that as from the human readiness and the AI readiness. I think when it was introduced in the beginning, the AI readiness was, it's not there. I mean, we still have 25% error rate. So I don't think it was really ready at that time. But for human readiness, it's really, really slow. So I use this as a map for where we are. Unfortunately, the technology, even with the speed, has moved really fast, and we are still trying to catch up. So if you stop the development of AI today, it's going to take us multiple years to catch up where things are today. So that when the human are not ready, it creates fear, a fear of, existential fear for higher education, fear of people losing jobs, and fear of, it created a lot of cultural clash. There's you have the people who are really enthusiastic about the AI, and you have faculty who want to touch it. So we, as leaders in our institutions, we're trying to navigate this shift. And it's going to be really managing technology, which also has its own problems, security, privacy, shadow IT, and managing this human readiness for the change in AI.
Fast pace, human readiness. What do you think?
Which one do you want to tackle?
I'll go with the human.
Okay, go ahead, Ingrid.
No, I think just as you said, there's different, the technology is developing at its own pace, and it's picking up the people part of it, the cultural aspect. It has its own pace as well, and in higher ed, we are methodical, deliberative. We do everything at our pace is generally slower. But even within universities, there is a huge range of speeds that different academic units are going at, right? So some are very gung-ho, some are really still trying to figure out how to make AI or whether to make AI part of their curriculum, what makes sense in their areas. And I think those are all legitimate concerns, and it's a matter of creating opportunities for conversations to happen where people can really struggle with these things productively, while at the same time the technology is heading, what we're even talking about has shifted, right? From ChatGPT just a couple of 3 years ago, and now we are way beyond that. So I think I'm sort of repeating what you said, but I think even to put even more of a emphasis on the cultural part, and it's not just faculty, it's students also are figuring this out. And I think faculty are hearing what their students are concerned about and what they're saying. And it's a lot of cultural considerations to just be mindful of and to navigate. carefully.
So the bill, I actually wrote down the number one problem is the pace, right? Technology is going super fast. I would say, in general, higher education is slow to change. As a generalization, I understand that, but I think we're slow to change. Is that fair?
No. We love changes.
I also think there's a change in the technology. I think last 3 years we've been doing a lot of generative AI, which is, people can dabble with it, you can play, you can produce. So a lot of what the generative side has been production. We're producing text or music, code. This agentic side of the house is going to be doing. This is going to be bots running 24/7 or agents running 24/7, and it's going to take people. It's going to take clean data and access to data. And I don't know if we're there from a higher education perspective. I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. Do we have the people? Right now, we're in the middle of a giant Workday implementation. So we have Workday plus their day jobs, and you throw more innovation on top of that related to AI, and it's just a lot of how much can we tackle kind of question from that perspective.
Yeah, there's a lot of change in the library being on the front lines for the students and the faculty, either in AI literacy or the research process. The impact was almost immediate. And so there was an immediate need to upskill our staff, of all of our employees. There's an immediate need to incorporate AI literacy into our regular information literacy education. We've seen an impact on the research process. So these things are all out of our control, right? The inability to reproduce results is particularly problematic for our engineering disciplines where these tools have been introduced. We also don't know where we should or shouldn't apply AI in the research process. Sometimes that's still being teased out in a lot of cases. The publishers and vendors are introducing tools that we don't have any control over in some cases, or we may not be able to turn off. And they're producing what we refer to as AI slop because it's bad quality information. And the library in particular has a unique problem. You spoke of good, clean data. The library has all of these public digital collections, and we've been inordinately heavy hit by bots. So we've had to spend a lot of time and effort in our IT department to put protection in place in front of a lot of these collections to keep them up and keep them publicly available for the intended audience without taking them down or putting them behind authentication. But that takes time and people and effort and extra money and resources to put those protections in front of those collections. So that's a lot of ours has been immediate effects that we have to address head on before we can even get into more of the longer term things that we would like to work with or contribute to.
Where did you guys feel the most prepared or perhaps unprepared to face those challenges? Were you ever prepared for that, or
For which challenge in general?
that AI challenge that we're talking about in general? Do you feel like it took us by storm, or it was something that we saw coming?
I think the generative side, I think students really jumped on that and ran with it. I don't think I think they were prepared. I think, if anything to help me do my homework, write my papers, they really kind of drove, I think, in the beginning of this from our institutional educational kind of perspective. If you go to what Tracy was saying, I think about Workday and who wants to do a giant ERP and the cost takes so much time and it's so expensive.
Right.
But the flip side of that is that instead of traditionally ICC had a ton of data silos. Through the ERP processes, we were able to shrink and consolidate a lot of those business processes into a single solution. Even if you think about PeopleSoft is where we came from, it was three different. It was HR, finance, and then students, and those are three different silos. So you think about how do you throw an agentic agent or some AI agent on to hit that, you have to build out this middleware, how do you connect all this data? But I think for us, and going back to that resource constraint piece, Workday has an agentic AI portion that's going to come with the product. So there's an opportunity there to take those agents in our consolidated business processes and our data, and the hope is that we'll have much fuller opportunity to deliver better results and outcomes. There's a whole lot of ifs. I think it goes back to some of what Tracy said as well, is a lot of these agents are going to be proprietary. So can you actually see how the soup is made? Maybe not. We're just now dipping our toes into this. So it's almost a master's class on how Workday is going to bill you to use their AI. So
going back to the speed, I feel like for students, the students ahead of us, they're already either using it, and they have been using it. And one of the problems what we're dealing with is this existentialist problem for higher education, or we're talking about academic integrity. So we have two situations: either the students are using it and they're being accused of cheating, and that creates the problem where they're now fearful to use it, which is not good. Or we're trying to help them. We're not teaching them how to use it, and they're not getting that direction. So I think that we're underprepared how we are giving information to the students and helping students to navigate this change. And I think that's going to be important because that's the bottom line, our students.
And this is a conversation we have a lot with faculty, and the answer is essentially, well, we're going to try to figure it out all together as we go, right?
Right.
There's no one good solution yet. That sounds great. Let's switch gear a little bit, and I'd love to discuss a bit institutional strategy, if you'd like. How is your institution approaching AI strategically right now? And where are you placing your primary emphasis? Experimentation, governance, infrastructure, faculty development, or something else?
Grab that one. So we have the library charged, the library charged a task force on AI strategy and services in 2024 after ChatGPT came out, and we had a year of digesting that. And we issued a report in spring of 2025. And the crux of the report is lean into our strengths and work with our partners, because it's, like you said, it's changing so fast that you couldn't make any real prescriptive recommendations. So the library has an extremely strong reputation in information literacy training. So we pull AI into that, right? We've got a strong presence as a research resource. And so we're trying to help guide researchers in how best to use AI. We're well suited to provide guidance on privacy and ethical use, which I think right now is lacking a bit in some places. I know at the event earlier this week on campus, my dean was a little bit alarmed that some of the speakers didn't really talk about ethics at all related to some of their projects. And so that's an area where we can add value. We have experts on copyright and text mining in the library, and then we also have these large digital collections that people may want to use to train their models. So from our perspective, we wanted to lean into these things, and so our focus and our resources have so far mostly been spent on AI literacy and producing research resources. And so we've created library guides on both topics, introduction to AI. We created a Canvas module. It's been the most downloaded module on campus, I believe, at this point, to help instructors put that AI context around their class to let the students know how they want or don't want it used in their class. We hold a number of savvy researcher workshops every semester that's covering AI topics. So we've really tried to go all in on the literacy and the research process support. We still need to do some work around data and making that available, and figure out how to license that so people can use it and things like that. That gets messy with some of our data because some of it's gifted to us through the archives and whatever, and tracking down rights to that's hard. But that's an area that we still need to work on. But those are the areas that we're diving into right now.
So a lot of emphasis on support, training, information, right? From CIO standpoint of view, you may have a different answer about infrastructure and perhaps how you are equipping your institution.
So one of the things that we did, I took a charge and created a committee for AI working group, which is too brave for a CIO to do to start with. I think that when we talk about AI in higher education, a lot of times we focus only the academic side, which is very important. This is the bread and butter of what we do. But AI, it does provide beyond just the academic services. So we try to think about that. We start talking immediately about policies and procedures. That did not work very well, because especially coming from CIO trying to put a policy to how to use or not to use AI.
Okay.
And part of the issue is like, again, the technology is moving fast, governance move really slow. So how do you reconcile things? And there's a literacy issue. And when we talk about literacy, it's trying to introduce people to the technology. So I think that it's time for us to get away from the literacy to the fluency. And I think that will help higher education a lot more to understand how to use AI, how to make a judgment, what it is telling you is right and not right. And the biggest problem for CIOs is like the shadow AI. It's like people use all kinds of AI tools, and you put like take FERPA data, HIPAA data, you put it in DeepSeek, which is a Chinese company, and now it is all over. So when we look at the governance, we created like a 4-quadrant kind of approaches. One for governance, we need to talk about governance, adapt our governance faster because it's changing fast, and that will be tricky to do. There is the operational part where we're trying to build business cases for how to use AI to improve efficiency in the college. There is the ecosystem for tools we use in the college. For instance, we said use Copilot, don't use everything else. Whether they listen to me or not, it's a different story. And finally, and that has to be on thing, is the academic side. And that cannot be led by the CIO. It has to be led by the academic services, the vice president's area. They need to help develop where we go from here. So this is the kind of approach we're looking at Parkland College for where we go from here.
Ingrid, as advisor to our fearless leader.
And I am definitely not a CIO, so I don't out. But kind of to pick up your point there about, I think from where I sit, I work closely with the CIO. We are in contact pretty much every day. And my sense is that she has done what you're describing, and that is set up really good, I would say, strategy around the technology side of things, developing the governance pieces. I think we're in really pretty good shape there and moving in even better, to be in better position. What's trickier is on the academic side. So again, that's where I come from. So I kind of sit at that same of thinking about the academic strategy. So we have a lot of infrastructure and capability in place to do kind of anything we choose to do, because the question gets to be, what should we do and what's aligned with our academic mission? And again, that decision comes from the faculty and academic leadership. And so I would say my role is to help facilitate those conversations to happen. That's not something that can come from top down as one single edict, because of the variability across all of our units, of course. And so the role that I play at this time is really one of coordination. So bringing people together, like we had an event earlier this week, which was a great conversation among faculty, primarily and academic professionals, about teaching, about using AI in research and other kinds of things of concern to them, to begin to think about where we need to go as a university. But it's really kind of coordinating those things and trying to make sure we have some sharing across units, so you don't have to reinvent. If you've got something good over here, we can borrow it over here, and so forth, as well as pulling together our resources. So another area, and Michel's been really instrumental, one of the players in this, as has the library, and that is training resources for faculty, for staff, to upskill themselves, get familiar with the, various tools, how they might use them, and then getting in the classroom, really how someone in engineering uses AI is going to be very different from how someone in English might use it, right? And so really trying to develop the right kind of frameworks for to set up the conditions for the academic pieces to happen. So we're working on that.
Yeah,
still.
sounds great. Gabe, is cybersecurity keeping you up at night? Like I mean, I'm sure.
Always.
Always. Okay. All right.
I kind of see this as kind of the front of house, back of house. And I think the front of the house is a lot of what we're all talking about here, is that literacy, that fluency, and that really kind of lives right now for us on the kind of the academic side. And I don't think that is let's solve this for Gen AI or Agentic AI. I think this is going to be this is going to be forever continuous engagements. I think the faculty need to understand how this is going to impact the political, cultural, the community, since we're community college. And then we'll have an impact on jobs down the road. So what do we want to teach our students? What do we want to leave them as they leave ICC with? What experiences, what talents? Keeping that workforce angle in terms of what do the corporations that are hiring our students, what are they looking for? I think that they need to keep talking about that. My staff are really focused on reducing those data silos, cleaning up the data. They're down deep in the weeds and the ones and zeros. And there's a lot of work. I can tell you right now with the Workday project, that data cleanup is huge. I can't speak enough on how much time we spend cleaning up our data. I feel a CIO position is right in the middle of all this. How do you provide kind of that opportunity to do, if you do a co-pilot, how do we manage the spread of people buying all other LLMs out there and then trying to kind of keep our data safe? There's a lot of work that goes into that. But it's can't be just a technology issue. This really is going to be a leadership issue for either the U of I or community colleges. The president on down, all the VPs really have to get on board with this and try to help manage this very important conversation. This is not, to me, this is an AI revolution. So this is much bigger than just a technology problem.
Very good. So how are we doing in time? This time? Okay. I'm going to turn that next question, which is a bit more tactical. Where are you currently seeing the most meaningful or promising uses of AI on your campus, whether it's in teaching and learning, administrative processes, or student support?
So, coming to the CIO position, I think that's something that needs to be talked more about. It's like, what's the role of CIO?
Let's talk about it. I'm good. Throw away my question. Let's talk about CIO.
It's a technology issue, but it does have a larger impact. All of a sudden, the expectation is the CIO to lead the charge and get the discussion going.
So do you feel the pressure?
Oh yeah, trust me, every day. So I mean, you don't want to go too far, so you need to bring people together. So I think it's a really interesting moment for the CIO Live right now. We're bringing AI, and what's the role? EDUCAUSE call us the integrators. So if we don't do it, who else is going to start the discussion? So you almost have to be started by the CIOs. But if you go too far, then you dig a hole for yourself. So you need to be careful. So there is a lot of political navigation that you have to do as a CIO and maneuvering to be able to create that right balance. So I have more control over my people. So as a CIO, we ask the questions, where the most benefit? It is what we do. So we just finished ERP implementation. We migrated our system to the cloud. That requires a lot of work. It's a 2.5-year project. We did that with minimal number of consultants. And the way we've done it, we did leverage AI to help us to do a lot of the work that need data cleanup. We used it for some of the code that need to be done. We use it for all kinds of things. So again, I think as a CIO, we have an opportunity to show how AI can be used, how could it be useful, and we've done it internally. We are very resource constrained again. It's like when we negotiate a contract, I have to review every contract for software that we bring to the college. I'm not a lawyer, but now I can play one with AI. So this is one area. I'm trying to help with the teaching and learning. One of the things, I sit in a company, its name is called Aporto. I'm an advisory to this company, and they're trying to specialize for teaching and learning. So we are all experimenting with catching students who cheat. And we very fast realized that's not a good system. It's not doing what's supposed to be doing. So we're trying to take a different approach with this company of how we assess progression of academics for students. So we're working with this Aporto, like there's a product called Co-Tutor. We try to pilot it. They have not released it yet. So we're trying to pilot something like this at Parkland and see if that can help with the academic side. So there's, as you can see, there's a few areas of AI. And if you can start with the operational side first, I think it will help demonstrate the value for the rest of the organization and will help faculty understand how that could be used in the future. But experimentation.
What do you think, Dave? As another CIO, is he correct or?
No.
Go for it.
I mean, we sit in the middle. It's yes.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
That was a good summary. Do you want to add anything else?
No,
As the CIO of the library, perhaps. Maybe I should not use that term.
I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do think where you can show where it's useful, you can build trust among people to say it can be useful for some things, because I see a lot of folks who are very skeptical of what AI can do. And so those areas where it can add a lot of value, transcription has improved greatly, as you all know. So that supports our Title II digital accessibility efforts, because then we can, get all of the transcripts in there, make them more accessible. It helps with that, note-taking, summarization, a lot of clerical tasks it can help with. Software development, as Amin mentioned, is another area where I see it helping a lot. It's improving efficiency. The developers can get so much more done more quickly. They can use it to help troubleshoot. They can use it to help test things. It's a great pair programmer for anyone that's a developer and knows what that is. It's kind of like you've got your own little pair programmer to sit next to you. In the library, I think where AI could be most effective is in our discovery and search and discovery services. And we're doing a lot of research in those areas and metadata creation or augmentation. And so those are areas where we have some faculty and different people doing a lot of investigation and research and testing. But I think building that foundation and getting people's buy-in as to whether it can be of value or not is somewhat foundational at this point.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to reserve some time for the audience. Yeah, what? Oh, Andrea has a question.
Yes, I was hoping to hear a bit more about agentic AI, because I think we often fall back into the generative AI, and I also, in our series, we've noticed that a lot of
That's the next question.
That's the next question. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
Great transition. And I think we can take like 5, 6, 7 minutes to answer that question, because then do we have questions from the audience?
Not online.
Not online, okay. And I'm sure those guys here have plenty of questions, right? I see Jeff, he's burning with questions. Anyhow, okay, so a more future-oriented question in my mind. As AI systems become more autonomous and agentic, what is one capability, risk, or opportunity that you think institutions should start preparing for now? When we start thinking about agentic AI, right?
And it's data.
Data, okay.
To me, if you're going to get any agent to work, it's going to have to come down to the accessibility to the right data that which you're trying to drive some outcomes, and it has to be good data. The accuracy of that data has to be spot on. So that readiness, that data readiness effort, we've been lucky enough to, both of us have been lucky enough to leverage ERP implementations to kind of do that data cleanup and potentially kind of reduce the number of data silos or even applications that we use. If you have a middleware, a MuleSoft, Azure that can go out and build APIs to the data, there's connections. I know I'm getting technical, but those also have to be there if it's not all in one system. So there's a lot that goes into just the data infrastructure to support any agentic AI type of effort. And to me, that's the biggest opportunity and also the risk to, if you want to prevent hallucinations, if you want a good outcome.
So data governance, good data.
For us, when you're just tearing down as many silos as you can tear down, the governance kind of goes out the door and we're just driving.
Okay.
It becomes a data management problem.
Okay.
But down the road, absolutely. Data governance, because once you get it there, you need to keep it.
And I'm sure you're going to approve what he said.
No,
maybe you don't have to.
I do. I mean, I think that data is the fuel of AI. AI is the engine, the data is the fuel for that. And the problem I have and the things that give me nightmare is like AI can discover the data and use it. And now it's available for any AI agent. So for us, the CIOs, clean up, but is how we protect it. So I kind of like for Agentic, we slowed it down somewhat because what you're saying, the Agentic is basically become its own entity. How do you control this entity and to make sure it's not messing the data, it's not making bad decisions. So for me, agents falls in two levels. There's what we call conversational agents, which is the agents that don't have reasoning, they don't have decision-making process, and they're really conversational. So one of the things we're going to be doing a hackathon, quote unquote, for developing an AI agent using Copilot, is to allow people, especially people like to buy software all the time, but they don't know what we have. So what we came with an idea is, can we develop an agent to help people understand what we have? And if they don't, how can we help them build a business case? Now, when you talk about Agentic, you're given something to have decision-making process, have some reasoning. And by the way, when we start hitting that agentic side of the house, I don't want to create something that will make more work for me. So it's like, I know we talked about like, well, check on the AI to make sure the AI is making the right decisions. Well, no, let's defeat the purpose. And it's going to go much faster, create more emails for me, create more data to clean up later on. So you have to control it. So from a security perspective, we really have to think the big implication. And to really, once you get the data, we have to pay money and have to build these things. They're not cheap. So especially for us, I mean, I hope I can collaborate with the University of Illinois to get more resources, but from Parkland College, it's not cheap and it's going to be very costly. So we have to find ways to collaborate with other institutions or other vendors and things like that.
And I think you've got a good point about you've got to be able to know how it's making its decisions. The library is very much a human in the loop advocate for these things. We don't think that going autonomous too quickly is a good idea. I mean, we've probably all seen the delivery bot that got ran over by the train or the Waymo car that drove people through the police scene and stuff. So, the library is very much, let's keep the people in the loop for a while. And we need governance or ways to build in our values, because otherwise it's very task driven, right? It's how quickly can we get this thing done, not should we have done it? And so with the library being very much an advocate for privacy and intellectual freedom and equity of access and being transparent about things, they very much want values built into these decision-making trees. So it's going to take a little longer, I think, to get to some of the autonomous things. Now, if it's very task-driven and it's not something that can go off the rails too badly, we're seeing a lot of autonomous things out in the fields now. You know, we live in a rural area, lots of agriculture. I watch the drones spray the fields now, you know, so there's things that you can use it for that will be very beneficial and valuable. But I think there's other things where we're going to want to slow it down a little bit.
Sure. I mean, being cautious is important. Do you want to?
I'll just add to that human in the loop. I totally agree. And I think from an academic side, I think our challenge is going to be, what does that human now need to know that's uniquely human when dealing with increasingly intelligent agents that are doing a lot of things that humans used to do, that was intellectual-ish at least. Now humans are still in the loop, but are going to have a different role with respect to that. And what kind of skills will people need to continue to be in the loop and supervise the AI and work with the AI as a partner, like, you know, in a group or whatever. Those are really different skills than just working with other individuals, right?
No, I was going to say, you know, I went to a conference last year at ASU and they were talking. So I talked to folks from AWS, Google, Microsoft, and they were talking about AI agent, AI super agent, and guardian agent to supervise the agent, right? And they were telling me we are moving full speed with that. The workforce right now, their definition is teams of human with AI agent. So if we go too slow here, how are we going to prepare our students to actually enter the workforce and be able to interact with AI agent as part of the team, right? I don't have an answer, but maybe you have some thought about it. I don't know.
Good question.
We cannot go too slow neither, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge is the speed of AI to the speed of higher education. I mean, you can almost, when Tracy was talking, you can almost say we can slow down here. It doesn't sound like in higher ed we are full agentic yet. We're still in the, I can definitely say that ICC is still generative.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say that's probably mostly true.
The same for us too, right?
On the academic side anyway, maybe in the operation.
There's some pockets of agent activity on campus, but it's related to research or.
I think research is a different monster. I think administratively, Workday is going to drive for us. We just don't have the resources to go and develop these agents on our own. So yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge.
Cool. Great. Well, I'd love to ask the audience if they have any questions. Yes, question over there. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Natalia. I'm a current junior here at U of I. You guys briefly talked about how we could have we teach students to work alongside AI. But university back in 2023 and 2024, they did a study on how many students find immediate jobs or final destination, how the university calls it, post-graduation. And the university reported that it was 90% of students who do find those jobs straight after graduation. However, 2024, you guys said it was a boom in AI, and since then, I've seen a lot of people report that they have this increasing difficulty to compete for AI jobs. A lot of jobs that used to be led by real people are now being taken by AI, specifically computer science, that kind of field. So I was wondering, how do we prepare students to enter the workforce or compete in the workforce against core jobs that are now easily taken by AI? Or can we?
That's a fantastic question, and I'm happy I'm not the panelist. So you guys.
I think if we can teach students to work with the AI or to help drive or supervise the AI, that's a very valuable skill. And so say you've got a finance degree and, you know, the entry-level finance people usually do a lot of research to put together reports for the whatever company they're working for to help them drive decision-making. And now you don't have to spend all of that time pulling all that stuff together to do that research. You can quickly use a tool to analyze it. If that student can learn to use those tools, the folks who are there may not know how to use them yet. Because what we see here on campus is the instructors who have been instructors for 5 or more years, they didn't use this, so they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to teach it necessarily. So there's chicken and egg problem, but I think there is a space for people to learn how to use the technology and be the value add that they bring to the table.
Great. We have another question here, and then I see one online, right? Okay, go ahead.
So as a person who's a friend with a person who's in the workforce now, he managed to use Claude to almost completely optimize and automize his job. So he says that most of his work is done by just automation at this point. And the concern for me is that with this new ability to automate a lot of labor, the high star society will just replace people rather than lowering the work week and paying us more. What are we doing to like fight back against that? Do you have like ideas of how we can ensure that we put laborers first rather than companies first with AI?
I think there's going to be shoveling. I don't think that we can just look at these things that jobs going to be disappear. I think there's going to be more jobs you have to think about. I was listening to reports from IBM. Actually, IBM hiring a lot more than they're letting go. And but the way they're using AI, IBM developed software. And one of the biggest problems is maintaining existing software that they need to keep up with. So they're deploying AI agents to fix existing software. That does not create value to the organization. What creates value is the new things that they are creating. So what IBM is doing is like let AI handle these things that do not create value. Now we have more people that help us expand and provide more to help the bottom line of the organization. So as you look at jobs, I mean, the statistics shows that everybody talk about jobs lost because of AI. I was listening to Gartner, which is a big research company. Gartner said the last 2 years, only 1% of the jobs, the total jobs were lost because of the AI. There's a lot of other factors. So my advice would be for students is think where the value is. Learn AI, figure out how AI is going to be used. For IBM, you can develop these agents to fix the existing software, but also you can help them build a new thing. And that's where the shovel, when I say there can be shovel, that's the shovel of the jobs. There can be some loss, but there's a lot of things can be gained, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Any other feedback?
Yeah, I would say something similar, and that is thinking about what is something that humans are really good at that can't be automated as easily, right? So you think about creativity, think about that critical thinking, and really thinking about wisdom. So, you can automate a lot of things, but what should you automate? What should be done? Like those questions are wisdom questions, right? And so really thinking, I think this whole revolution will benefit people that are able to kind of think at that higher level and look into the future more. Also, I think people skills become even more important. So as agents, and AI kind of replaces a lot of routine things that don't require human interaction, that leaves a lot of jobs that still do. And so people that are good at those jobs, I think, will always, be in demand, interacting. For instance, you might be able to go to an AI doctor, but do you really want to? Like, you have cancer, do you want to interact? No, you probably want a human, right? There's always going to be places for human skills. And I think working on those, which, some people are natural, some people practice, but I think that will always be valuable, I think.
And I would use a doctor, real doctor, but I know that doctors will be using AI.
They do.
So this is another thing. It's like, how do you, as you learn, make sure you learn AI too, because any job you're gonna look for, it's gonna require that skill going forward. So this is another thing to keep in mind.
I'm gonna take a question that is from Lydia Elliott online. Human in the loop is extremely important. Considering that automation bias exists, how can we continue to mitigate in ways that protect faculty and student judgment rather than quietly displacing it?
That was
maybe Tracy.
I was going to say that was one of the things the library is an advocate for.
Mm.
We see possibly this invisible drift. If you don't clearly define the values that you want to be considered
Mm.
when it's making decisions, or the types of considerations you would make, you've got to get it in the data, right? You've got to clearly define it. You've got to set up rules and prompts and all of that to give it those bumpers and guidelines. I don't know any other way you would get around that at this point, other than to be able to clearly define what you expect for the human in the loop part.
To me, human in loop is still there. We have a growing problem in terms of fraud with our students. So we're looking at ways that we can prevent fraud, and some of this is through these biometric kind of take a picture of your driver's license, take a picture of your face, and try to match it up. But that also introduces the bias that we're kind of talking about here. And it mostly, unfortunately, tends to be to the darker skinned people have more of the biased issue, which brings other questions into this check. But human in loop is still here until the technology catches up and we can reduce the bias. I think that we'll always have, I mean, before we were mainly checking based off of their address and the IP address of where they sent things, and you know, it was kind of complex. But for now, I think that automation is not fully there. We can definitely reduce the amount of work that we have to do in terms of checking, especially we can have a lot of this automated now, and then at the end result, the human can then double check things, to kind of validate the AI.
I think for higher education, yes, I agree. But it's not where the industry is going right now. And the industry is going toward a full autonomous approach for a lot of these things. So I think that it's not going to be for everything, but it's going to be situations where the human in the loop becomes it's lousy AI.
It's lousy.
I mean, it's AI. It goes really fast, and if the objective is to increase profits, and this is how you know the companies works, they want to create more burdens on people. So the question how to improve that. But definitely, I mean, higher education, other situation, you cannot take human out from the whole process.
I think going back to your question, in the community college, we have workforce, which is yes, your question. In terms of how your original question of how, and I think the speed at which corporations are adopting AI and leveraging more of the automated agents based off of what we teach and then what we teach students and what we expect them to graduate with, I think that is at odds today. I don't know if faculty want to hear that, but I think we have to figure out and find that balance.
That's true.
Or we have to find how we're relevant in training our students to be successful post-graduation. So that for us, from a community college perspective, I'm saying workforce is an opportunity where we work with corporations, understand what they want from our students, then we bring that back. It's an intentional connection because we're a community college, right? So we bring that back, and that involves how we teach. In many ways, this will shape that conversation we have with faculty more than what we can do internally from an administrative perspective.
You had another questions, and then we have a few online. Go ahead.
Okay, last one, I promise.
Make it short.
I promise. You brought up though with student fraud and how at the moment students are able to show their IDs, proof of address to kind of prove it's them and take an assessment. Recently though, Duolingo English test, which has become a reputable form of English proficiency testing for universities, I think especially during COVID, it became very big. And in that test, for example, you have to come on camera, show your face, and show your ID, just like we're talking about. But with AI and deepfakes becoming a bigger and bigger issue, that level of security essentially becomes non-existent. So how do you deal with that as a university? Since that's so... Sorry.
Once again, I'm glad I'm not panelist. Who wants to take it?
So,
Ingrid, go ahead.
You know, I guess the immediate reaction is, well, you get people back in the classroom and you're doing it live. But that really kind of goes against all of the work that we do to make things accessible to students online and make that, you know, all that infrastructure. So I'm going to, this is one where I feel like I need to default to my technology-oriented colleagues, but I will say, I don't think the answer is to completely stop doing online things. I think that really is sort of the letting the tail wag the dog, so to speak. I do hope that there are ways to kind of get around this, but I don't know the answer to that question, I'll just say, but I'm sure one of my esteemed colleagues does.
So it's the cat and the mouse. This
Yeah.
like we figure out a way how to fix it, and they figure out a way how to break it.
Get it
I
done,
mean,
yeah.
and we're looking at also human behaviors. I mean, one of the things I've seen some people put AI images, and you ask them a question, they don't move, and you just ask them, okay, can you touch your color in your shirt? And it doesn't work. It's like all of a sudden we discover something. But has been a challenge to figure out the person that you're talking to is actually the person who you think that they are. And we actually at Parkland we have people from China, and we discovered this guy who has his identity shared with multiple people. It turns out he hired like an organization to do his homework for him. It was very creative, and we're all of a sudden seeing like so many accounts. So we create metrics to try to capture these things, but it is not easy. It has been a challenge. And then the fraudulent account applications, like we don't know that the people who are applying to come to our institution were open access. So anybody can have access to the community college. So we have issues with that. So maybe as you guys learn and help us figure these problems as you develop these new skills. So we'll be appreciative of that.
Thank you. So we have like officially 3-4 more minutes. I see we have a few questions online. Let's take, which one do you want to take, guys?
I can sit back, so you have to choose one.
Okay. Huh? All right, so let me start with this one. Which core college business processes, payroll, financial aid, enrollment advising, are you prioritizing for AI-enabled continuity? And which are you intentionally, and which are you intentionally excluding? If you are excluding anything. This is very tactical, very infrastructure-oriented question for you guys.
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, it's like we are IT, so let's try IT first.
Okay.
So this works for us, but everything else.
So for us, I think I got to focus where, from a workday perspective, where we're going to have the opportunity with AI, where it's going to be provided. So advising is definitely on the roadmap for workday, where workday will help a student understand, where they're at in terms of their instruction with ICC, what are their gaps, if they want to jump over to a different major, or then what does that cause in terms of time? So we're definitely going to have some opportunities from the workday side of the fence related to AI for our students and advising.
Very good.
I would love to see financial aid issues resolved, make it easier for the students to understand their financial aid. It's another area of being nice.
The Fed's got to figure that out first, right?
I know that's the problem, right?
Let the AI figure that out. Then we can...
and perhaps one last question. If people increasingly rely on AI to solve problems, will that reduce a student's sense of collaboration and critical thinking? How should teachers guide and respond to this shift? Ingrid, I'm looking at you.
Okay, I feel your eyes on me. So, I think it could. I think that is the challenge. And I think I'll say it's a challenge for students. It's also a challenge for faculty. So on the student side, I'll say one thing that we are seeing. So yes, there are students that use AI all the time to get their work done faster. There are also students that are very thoughtful about, I don't want my critical thinking skills to go to waste here. And so they actually might be more reluctant to use AI or to try it out because they worry about that very thing, right? So there is this point of which there is a certain amount of self-awareness that it takes to say, how much should I use a tool and how much should I struggle on my own first before I go to that tool. And I think for faculty, it's the same thing, right? So, and especially in some courses, where the point of the whole course, for example, is to learn how to write in your own voice. Well, that is not something that's really, amenable to using AI for. So how do you sort of encourage students to struggle with that? So sometimes the struggle is the point, right? And that's where it's tricky, I think, is to kind of ensure that you're not losing all of your critical thinking skills, even if, let's say, you learn you're going to automate a task, but someone needs to supervise that, the human in the loop piece. How do you know the task is done correctly?
Right.
You sort of have to know how to do it yourself to be able to check it and ensure, that it's being done correctly. So there is a point of learning those processes, even though they can be automated, because somebody's going to have to check it.
Be critical of the results.
Yes. Does that even make sense? Does that line up?
So what I'm hearing is AI kind of redefine the value of knowledge, right? It's easy to get an answer.
Yes.
The question is going to be how we teach our students to really think about the process to get that answer, and then be critical about that answer, being able to argue that answer. And that's how you maintain and elevate, perhaps, critical thinking, right?
And can you explain it? So it's one thing to, generate an answer, and then you have to do a presentation where you talk about it and someone asks you a question because you are responsible for it. And if you can't answer a question about how it happened, then you're kind of stuck, right? So it's not as useful as it could be.
Or slow it down.
So down.
In many cases, like if you want to have a conversation on the book reports and define all the critical parts of the book, you can do that as a group, have a discussion, and then go back to AI and ask AI what the critical parts of the book are, and then have a discussion on what we compare.
Yeah.
So I see faculty, some faculty innovation. I start to see a lot more innovation with faculty. One faculty member has asked the students to use AI, get answers out of the AI, and ask the students to grade the output of the AI. And using that, they help them. And a lot of times the students have graded F for the AI output. So I think it's like this, going from the literacy to the fluency that I mentioned earlier in the discussion.
That's right.
Very good. I think it's time to wrap up. Before we do, one word or perhaps one sentence of wisdom about AI that you may want to share with us. I mean,
experiment. I mean, I think that try it out and learn from it. And this is there's no fear to try that.
Perfect.
I was going to say, don't be afraid, be curious.
Don't be afraid, be curious.
Same, actually. Yeah.
I was going to say lean in, which is the same.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So, well, as you can see, I had many more questions. So I'm hoping, I'm putting you on the spot here, guys. I'm hoping that this was part one, and maybe we can have part two in the fall. How about that? You're being recorded. You're being recorded, and you're committing, right? Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.